So my question is basically, why would a God purposefully create someone that he knows will suffer in hell internally?
Assalamu alaikum, guys. Today we're going to be doing a discussion with one of my friends. His name's Jab. Hello, Jab.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Good, good. Ready for
So,
the debate.
I mean, if you want to call it debate, call it discussion, whatever, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. But can you? So I'm still kind of unsure. Like, what exactly is your belief? Like, are you agnostic, or are you theist, or atheist? Like, what exactly are you?
Well, I was born Jewish. I kind of like turned to atheism because I came to the understanding like, oh, this it doesn't really make sense, religion. And so currently I don't believe in God, but I'm very much open to hearing what other people have to say, and maybe if they're able to convince me, I can return back to theism.
So you would title yourself an atheist.
Yeah, I think I think so, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, how do you want to do this? Did you want to like ask questions, or did you want to like I don't know.
First, I just want to know, is this like one recording or like can we do cuts and whatnot?
Um, I was gonna make it kind of just one recording. I mean, maybe if there's like a I don't know if I'm like pulling up some sort of link or something, it was just like silence. I might cut that out.
Okay, okay.
Um, but it's probably I might make it shorter if it goes on for a while. Probably no longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I have two questions that I kind of like thought of before the discussion, and I don't know if it's enough. It might make the video short, but I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully, it can get us through a good amount.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Let's hear.
I think I'll just start off with the first question. So my first question is, if God is omnipotent, he knows out of all the people he creates who will choose to believe in him and follow him while on earth. We also know that he supposedly doesn't want people to suffer and only wants people to believe in him and follow him. However, God creates people that he knows will not choose to follow him while on earth, and those people end up suffering eternally in hell.
So, the whole reason that he created us, right? Like, why are we different than animals? Is because we have free will. So if all of us were to be good, then we wouldn't actually have free will. So in a way, we'd basically just be animals. We wouldn't be any different. So if God created humans with free will, but they were only good, how would they have a choice? Like basically, there has to be the option that you can do bad in order for there to be free will.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay, I get that, like, God has given us free will and the ability to make our own choices. But what I'm confused about is when he creates humans, he already knows before, like, we make our own choices whether we're going to choose to follow him or not. It's still our
Mm-hmm.
choices, but he knows what the outcome is going to be. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he knows that in the future we're going to end up choosing not to believe in him, why would he create us in the first place?
Well, the whole reason that we're here is because life is basically a test. So as we believe as Muslims, this is a test whether you will choose God or whether you won't. And in order for it to be a test, you have to have an option to choose. So all of those people that God knows are going to fail, all of them had the chance to believe in him, meaning they weren't forced to fall away. There's a possibility that all of them could have turned to God. Um, but the whole point is that it's a test. So the way I sort of think of it is sort of like a classroom. If you're trying to get a PhD, it's not that the teacher wants you to fail necessarily. The teacher doesn't want you to fail. But someone who doesn't study and doesn't really care about the test is not going to pass the test, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
all of the students have the potential to pass the test 100%. There's no person that doesn't have any potential to be saved. But some people choose with their free will, and that's just the nature of having free will. Like, if we didn't have free will, we'd be no different than animals. Like, the animals aren't going to be punished because they don't have free will. So just by the very nature of us having free will, that's kind of the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so your analogy on the classroom, I believe you brought that up before, and I answered, like I gave my own um like thoughts on it, but I want to go at it from a different angle this time.
Okay.
So you say that someone who basically doesn't study won't get their PhD, which is a fair analogy. Like, yeah, if I don't study in school, I probably would fail and get kicked out. But
Mm-hmm.
in life, people are able to choose whether or not they want to go to school or not. Of course, school can be helpful in certain things, but someone who wouldn't want to go to school would probably just um, not have gone in the first place or drop out. So my question is sort of like, God is basically what I'm trying to say is God is almost forcing us in a way to go to school. And so if someone doesn't want to go to school, why why is God still forcing them to?
So since we're using an analogy, someone not wanting to be going to school would be analogous to someone who doesn't want to follow God.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're saying why doesn't someone have the right to not follow God?
Yeah. I mean, like it's almost like saying that someone who doesn't follow God, who has like who has grown up with a different belief, it s- it seems unfair to them
Why does it seem what part of it is unfair?
because God has created a life that only revolves around him, and if someone has found a way to live life without it having to revolve around him, because people are always able to like find are able to make a career out of themselves even without going to school. And so if people are able to make a life out of themselves without following God, why do they still get punished for that?
So in the analogy, the punishment represents not getting the PhD. So you're right; those people could make a living for themselves, but do they have the PhD? They don't.
No.
So they're not going to have the PhD. And this is the thing: if you want, you actually can live your life however you want, but you're not going to get that PhD, which represents the salvation of God. That makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, God told you or told us to believe in Him, and if we do, there'll be a reward. So it's actually an option. You know, if you believe in Him, you get the reward. But if you don't believe in Him, you're not going to get the reward. So naturally, if you choose, I don't want to believe in you, then you're not going to get the reward.
And just to clarify real quick, because you went over this before, but I don't really remember. If you choose to not believe in him, do you go to like do you get a consequence or it's sort of like the absence of a reward?
Well, the absence of the reward would just be a consequence.
So what would that be like?
Like the hellfire,
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty bad. Like
Okay.
it's described in the Quran as like torment. There's like different levels. Um, Fire. It's gonna be burning. It's gonna be not a good place to say the least. And I don't want anybody to go there. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So by not believing in God, we are basically because you said it's the absence of God, but to me, that sounds like more of a punishment and a scare tactic.
What, the hellfire?
Yeah.
Well,
Like
it
it
is a
almost
punishment.
seems like it when someone says that, like the first thought that comes to my head is, "Oh my God, that's scary. I don't want to go there." As I think a lot of other people feel that way. But like I'm just wondering why that's the case and why like God would create such a place.
Yeah, so the reason that there is a punishment is because that's literally like the whole point of this life, right? Like why are we even here? If we're here just to, choose, maybe I want to believe in God, maybe I want to do our own thing, maybe I just want to, go to the parties and get drunk and this kind of stuff. What's the point? Like why would God even create this place in the first place? So actually without there being a punishment and reward, it renders this whole world basically pointless. If that makes sense. There's no reason for this world to even be here without some sort of reward or punishment afterwards. And that's why, like, if you want to say, well, what about why couldn't we just be all good and like there's no God didn't create the ones that choose badly and there's no punishment after. That's basically what animals are. Like for animals, they don't have free will. They just do good and there's no ones that do bad, but there's no reward for them either. There's no punishment also. They're essentially kind of like your hypothetical, except not humans. Like it's the animal's reality. If that makes sense. So that's why we're different. Like we're different from animals because we have an intellect, we have free will, we have a choice. And that's why when humans see something bad, they know that it's bad. Like you don't need to be told that killing someone is wrong. If you see someone get murdered, you know that it's the wrong thing because you have this intellect and this we call it like the fitra, like the innate disposition towards things that are evil because you have free will and you know what's wrong and you're essentially like programmed in a way to stay away from it.
Hmm.
So if there is no punishment and there is no reward for doing wrong things, there's no point at all. And there's also injustice. So we have to have a punishment for the people who do wrong things and get away with it. And I always use this example, like Hitler, if he killed all the Jews, right? As far as I'm concerned, he didn't get tortured for it. He got away and died of old age or whatever. And in an atheistic worldview, he's just gonna get away with nothing. Like all those people just died for no reason. But if there is a punishment afterward, that justice will be served.
Okay. There are actually 2 points I want to get on that. Um, One, I'll get on the most recent thing you said. Actually, give me one sec. My mom on the call right now. Okay. Uh, so sorry, my mom walked in.
All good.
But yeah, I don't personally believe that there's a need for a punishment. Like, I do believe that the world will be better if everyone were to follow a certain a given rules that benefit the society, which is what religion does and what has actually helped us in many aspects to grow as a civilization. But I don't actually believe that it is like a necessary need. It's helpful, no doubt, but it's not
You don't.
something I believe that can like we can survive without it, basically.
You're saying we can survive without religion, or you're saying that there's no need for a punishment?
Well, God has his own punishment, and without that, we what I'm saying is we're still able to like survive because like in many, I think actually every country, there we have been able to create our own punishment with laws given and whatnot, and trials and death row and prison. That I don't think we need a divine being to, you know, sort of push it forward for us and extend the and make the punishment more grave
But that's literally like that's how those laws got into place.
because of God.
Well, because of religion. If there was no religion, there never would have been any of these laws like no murder or no stealing, like treat your neighbor as yourself. These types of things, these all came from religion. And in fact, in an atheistic society, if there's a society without religion, all of it's arbitrary. So it's democratic. If the majority of people vote that people should be killed for breathing, that becomes the law. If the majority of people say, I think we should be able to kill each other, and then they start killing each other, that becomes the law. So if you don't have an objective standard, if you don't have any objective standard, then things will just change. And you've seen this happening. Like 200 years ago, slavery would have been perfectly fine and normal in a society like the one we live in today. And then it changed. And back then, things like homosexuality would have been completely illegal. But now they're perfectly legal. So things are changing. This is what happens when humans just try to like make up their own rules, is that there's not an objective standard that stays. It just keeps changing and changing. And the more humans try to put their subjectiveness into it, it just gets worse and worse.
What makes you say it gets worse and worse?
Well, would you agree that for a good society, it should be growing?
Yes.
So just look at Western society. The birth rates are below 2 children per woman, which means it's a decreasing society. And it's actually
But how
Muslim
is that?
countries that have +2 birth rates.
How is that affected by religion though?
Well, that's because they're religionless. They just go out and they party and they have birth control and they don't have kids and these types of things.
Hmm.
Homosexual
But
relationships. That's what happens when it becomes normalized. Like just
okay,
sleeping with
and
people for one night and then never seeing them again. These types of things.
hmm and you're saying there's a problem with that?
Yeah. I mean, look what it's done to
Okay.
society. It's funny because even if you continue the society, eventually it will die because it's decreasing. And then a society that has higher birth rates is just going to take over. Like
Okay.
every liberal society you try to make is just self-defeating.
Hmm.
Eventually, a religious society like a Christian society or an Islamic society is going to take it over. And if it becomes liberal, then it's just going to die again, and then it's going to retake.
Okay. I don't know. Personally, yes, I understand that there are certain problems with that, like the decrease in birth rate, but I also see many like benefits out of um like laws changing. Like for let's take for example, homosexuality. In religion, I'm not sure about Islam, but at least for Christianity, um, people who are gay, uh, transgender, people who basically like change their identity are viewed as unfaithful people and people who don't respect like God's words. But I personally believe that it has like the acceptance of LGBTQ has very much like helped our society in being able to grow and become a stronger community. And this is just one example, but I don't know. I feel like with the change, like laws being able to change, can also be very beneficial to society.
Okay, I'm gonna frame it in a way that's gonna hopefully help you understand a little bit. Okay, so
Okay.
if hypothetically we could establish that the Quran was God, like divine, it came from God, and these rules are from God, would you agree that any rule that comes from God should be applied above any other humans' subjective rules?
Yes.
So if we can establish that the Quran and the Prophet ﷺ, had divine inspiration and they actually are the laws that they taught are actually from God, then we should uphold them above any other person's society, right?
Hmm.
And those laws should be applicable and timeless.
Okay, but before you were viewing it as a society, and now you're viewing it as a um like under God's vision.
Well, yeah, any rule that
So,
God set is going to be the best rule.
okay,
I mean, if how
but
could God make a lacking rule? Like, how could God make an incorrect rule? It
I
wouldn't it
mean,
wouldn't be from God then.
we look at today and we see so many like things that are different from the past. Like I said, LGBTQ. There's also AI, which is a very like big thing that's growing. And like honestly, like the internet is just a crazy thing that no one could have imagined like a millennia ago. So since there has been like no change in any text that like talk about the things that have happened today, um with all the new inventions that have been created, I just don't think that all of God's words can be properly used and followed in today's day and age.
Well, I don't know why you brought up computers and AI. I'm not sure what that has to do with it, but all the laws that were set by the Prophet Muhammad and from Allah, peace be upon him, are always applicable for today's time. So, for example, like with the thing with cars, right? What the Prophet did, and this is something that's pretty miraculous about it, is that it is applicable for everything, and I'm going to explain how. What the Prophet would do is that he wouldn't set specifics; he would set principles. So, for example, he would say, with your transportation, his transportation was a camel at his time. But he would say, with your transportation, for example, this is the prayer that you'd make before you go on a journey. And that's applicable for anything. Even though he was using a camel, that's applicable for people who are on a horse or horse and buggy. It's applicable for people who are in cars. It's applicable for people who are going on planes. It's applicable for everything. And it's funny because like the the camel was like the Lamborghini of his time, basically. So like any of the rules that he set are applicable. Like even with AI, we can. I mean, there's not really any rules about AI. Like there's nothing like haram about it. But any modern thing that comes up, any sort of like currency that comes up, or any sort of business model that comes up, he set the principles so we can actually tell if it's halal or haram or if it can be used. So if someone makes a new bank, for example, we can tell, is it halal, if it's haram, does it have interest in it? This is a principle that was set. Even though that particular business didn't exist at that time, we can still use the principles that he set and apply it to a modern thing.
Hmm.
And if you can name anything, like name anything, and like there's a ruling that is applied to it that the Prophet ﷺ set like as a principle for it. Like the advancement of
Okay.
technology doesn't make the rules any less applicable.
Well, one thing I will give you like the benefit of the doubt since I'm not really like well informed on all the rules of Islam, what is haram, what is halal. But I don't know, at least in Judaism there were some what's the word called? Like th things that were like mm, things that were unclear in today's day and age. Um, so yeah, you said name anything. I am gonna name. I am gonna give you something which I'm curious is in Islam. So about something discussed in Judaism. Is there any rules against that?
Sorry, against what?
Gambling and
Oh yeah,
betting money.
gambling is haram,
Okay,
and there's a
because
wisdom behind it too. Do you know why it's haram?
tell me.
Well, number one, it's addictive. So people get addicted to it and they keep doing it and they keep doing it and they can't get off it. I've literally experienced this firsthand. Like I have a friend who was just like on it and on it and on it. And the other thing is
Hmm.
that most gambling machines, you're just gonna end up losing money on. And so there's so many stories of people, and it's like infecting the United States, unfortunately, with these gambling casinos. So many people that lose all of their money, and they get depressed and they go on drugs because they lost all their money, and then they commit suicide. And there's so many stories of that because like 1 in a million chance you win, okay? And all those chances you win, you're going to end up losing your money. A lot of people, not all of it necessarily, if you just do it one time, you're not going to lose all your money, but people get addicted to it and they keep losing their money. And then they can't fulfill their responsibilities. They can't support their family. They can't support their kids. And then the one person who does win, he's just gotten undeserved money. Now he's overly rich for the wrong reason. He just got lucky. And that money could have been given to someone who actually earned it, as opposed to just this lucky person. So it's actually like gambling is like very evil. There's so many bad things about it. So yeah, it's completely haram in Islam to gamble.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I wanted to bring that up is because yeah, there are some similarities I found, but one example that like it's really the only one I can think of right now, but like t in today's day and age, we have cryptocurrency and like online like buying stocks and all that, which was not a thing a century ago, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't even go back to when the last like prophet was here. And I'm just wondering because there's no rules on that. There's nothing that really clarifies like how that works in specific. I don't know. There
Well,
there
there
might be, and
is.
I just might be stupid, but
So
oh.
this is the thing. It's funny because I was literally just looking into this because I was like looking at some NFT stuff. And the thing is, so there's this is kind of like an slightly unimportant topic in terms of belief, but there's something in Islam called fiqh, which is like the jurisprudence, the rulings, and these are things that are derived from all the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So, for example, I was looking at NFTs, right, which is based in cryptocurrency. Um, Even though there's no explicit hadith about the word NFT, but what we do know is that okay, let's see, is cryptocurrency, does it have interest in it? Okay, there's no interest in it. So we know that's fine. That's checked because he prohibited interest, but if there's no interest, it's permissible. Okay, we know it's permissible. Is the product that we're buying an permissible image? So for example, NFT is like an art piece, right? Is it a picture of like one of the prophets, or is it a picture discriminating the prophets? Is it an uncovered woman, for example? Is it something else that's haram? If it's those things, then we can't buy it. But if it's not one of those things, if it's just a normal picture, it's perfectly fine. Then it doesn't have interest. It's a perfectly permissible picture. Then we know that's a permissible thing. And he set these principles that you can actually apply to any sort of new technology. If that makes sense.
Okay. So uh, to hmm, to go a bit more into that, before you said that like losing like gambling is bad because you might lose a lot of money and come become depressed and all that, or you might win and get undeserved money. I think the same thing can be applied to stocks and crypto, in that people can either lose a lot of money, which we saw a lot about in COVID times between like 2020 and 2023. And also people can win a lot of money, which was seen in
Yeah.
Bitcoin and other companies like that. So
So yeah. So what
yeah, where do we draw the
classifies
line basically?
what classifies as gambling in Islam is if the chance of you winning or losing is purely based on just chance. So the reason gambling's haram and Bitcoin isn't is because gambling, there's no skill that you can possibly involve in your advantage. So it's completely up to luck. Whereas Bitcoin, even though it might seem like it, you can make predictions, and it doesn't just go up by chance. It goes off base of the economy, and same with stocks. Like for example, a business would go up because it increases in net worth, or there's a high demand for this product. It's not based on chance. It's based on the economy. So that's why it'd be considered permissible.
So would you say in that case, because you say gambling's not allowed, so when you first say that, I think of like blackjack and games like that. But
Yeah.
blackjack and poker, two examples just out there, um, those games still do require skill. Like there are some people who like do all the math, figure out all the odds, and using that, they're able to make like play games, which how do I put this? They
I get what you're saying. So
yeah.
this is an interesting thing, and this doesn't have anything to do with Islam. It's just my personal belief. But I believe that any game that has any sort of base, any aspect of it that has luck, it renders the entire game luck. So if there's a single dice in a game, the game's completely luck based. Even if there's something that seems like skill. So, for example, in the fiqh of Islam, if there was a card game where you can win money that wasn't based on luck, it would be halal. The issue is the cards are dealt completely randomly, right? So it's possible that I could get in every single game I play, it's possible that I could get the perfect hand and win every single time. And it's possible that you could lose every single time. But it's not based on any skill. You didn't pick your cards. Your cards were just dealt out randomly. But if it was like a
Mhm.
game, if the game was where you could pick your cards and you could strategize, to my understanding, it wouldn't be haram at that point. It's only haram if it's based on luck.
Okay. It it's interesting that you include luck in this equation because I want to give a much like broader example of luck in the real world that involves God, which is, and I bet you this is a common question, but it has to do with where you're born in the world. So some people, like basically depending on where you're born in the world, can dictate on what religion you follow, and um, not just religion, but whether you believe in religion or not. Like
It's
your
likelihood,
parents
yeah.
could be,
Like you're
yeah,
most
your
likely to
parents
be.
could be atheists, try to push that onto you, or they could be very religious figures who try to make you follow in their footsteps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So basically, my question is, if you say luck, um, it's haram, or anything that involves a little bit of luck is just entirely luck based, wouldn't that make the luck of where you spawn make life just luck based?
Well, I don't understand. I'm not fully understanding, because if you mean like if someone was born in like let's say they're born in a Christian country where all they know is Christianity, because everyone's Christian, that's how they were raised, and they never heard about Islam, then I don't believe that that person will be punished.
Okay, but if they're born in an Islamic country, then they could be punished, but they could also not be punished. Like you don't know. So I
What do you
guess you could
mean?
say them being born in a Christian country would make them lucky, which doesn't exactly make sense to me.
Wait, what do you mean? I'm not sure. What? You said if someone was
Okay,
born in
well,
an Islamic society?
no, no, you want people to follow Islam, correct?
Yeah, of course.
So if someone's born in a Christian society, what you're saying is basically they get a free pass on taking the test on um,
Well,
like following God's rule.
no, I'm saying that if someone has never heard the message of Islam and they're completely ignorant of it, um, God's not going to hold them accountable. If that makes sense.
Okay, so do they take a different test then, or they just get put into heaven?
Um, After they die, So I'm unsure exactly what will happen. All I know is that Allah only judges you based off your knowledge and your intention. So and I can't say per person. This is just generalities. Like I have no idea who's never heard the message. I have no idea. But for example, there's some hadiths where it says like if someone was following God, but they didn't hear like Islam, there would be a test on the day of judgment. And this is the thing is like we actually believe that there could be some like Christians who are in a higher place in heaven than Muslims because they were completely ignorant, but they followed what they knew better than we did. So this is just a general example, but take like a Christian who was born in a purely Christian society, had no idea of Islam, but they practice it to a T because they genuinely wanted to follow God as much as they can. And then take someone who was a Muslim, but let's say he was like neglectful, right? He didn't really care about his prayer. He didn't really care about, maybe he just didn't follow any of the rules, right? You're drinking all the time. I actually believe that this Christian person is going to have a greater reward than he is because of the person's intent. And that's what I was saying is like, it's not based on like what you do. It's based on what you're intending to do. So that person that in this hypothetical example, which I'm sure has happened all over the world, there's some people like this, that person is still going to get a great reward. Like Allah's not going to be unfair and be like, I put you in an all Christian society, so you'll never hear the message of Islam, and now I'm just going to punish you. Like that would be completely unjust.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I don't
that
know if
actually
answered
makes a lot of sense.
I don't know if that
No, no,
answered your
no.
question or not.
That answered it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah.
And remember that verse I
All right.
sent you? This kind of goes back to that verse where it says, the people that will be put into the hellfire are the ones that, like, even if they were given a second chance, they still would have continued to deny.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people that just haven't heard the message, but if they were, let's say they were born in a Muslim society, they would be a great Muslim. So those kind of people are not going to be thrown into the hellfire by any means.
Okay. No, I think that's good. I think that wraps up that point that we were talking about.
Yo.
Very, very good.
Yeah. So I don't know if you had anything else, but I wanted to kind of mention that like these sort of questions on like what's the ruling, like what's the ruling on this, what's the ruling on this, these are kind of unimportant because they're secondary. They're not really important for you unless you can establish the base. So if we can establish that the Prophet ﷺ is a true prophet and that Allah is real and that he sent the Quran, if we can establish these things, then we can sort of worry about like how do we pray or what's the right way to pray or how exactly does this work. But until you establish that kind of first step, these other questions are kind of irrelevant, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important that if we establish like the very base, and I feel like the first sort of contention is on the existence of God for you. I feel like that would be kind of a more, in terms of progressing, like finding progress on who's correct, what's the truth. It's better to start with the base where the contention is so we can progress from there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But I'm not going to stop
fair.
I'm not going to stop you from asking anything. I'm just saying, like, I'm not a scholar, so me giving out rulings is not my
Your voice
specialty.
cut out.
Like, that's not my specialty, basically. Like, in Islam, you're not allowed to, like, teach people fiqh or, like, these sort of rulings unless you have knowledge. What you're allowed to teach as sort of like a layman is you can teach, like, theology. You can do Dawah, which is, like, calling people to Islam. But when it comes to the secondary sort of irrelevant things, I'm in no position to give rulings out on those types of things. And the reason is it's sort of like if someone was injured, like a random person can't just come and heal them. They don't know what they're doing. They have to have a doctor. You know, if someone's arm cut off, how are you going to, some random person's going to just put the wrong chemical in there and make it even worse. It's not in their position to do it unless you have like a PhD or you're a doctor, you're qualified to do those things. Then you can do it. But any person can say, "Oh, you want to be healthy? Drink some more water." Or you have a cut in your hand, let me just put a Band-Aid right there. Like these are basic things. This is the kind of stuff that we as laymen can do. This is like the theological discussion, the Dawah stuff. But when it comes to like what's the proper way to pray or how do I recite this Quran verse, that's the kind of stuff where you ask the qualified people, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I'm very good when it comes to into like going down a rabbit hole on a random discussion that has no importance. Like
That's fine.
like for
I'll just
example,
sorry.
yeah, for the gambling thing, like I don't know why I went down that, but
Yeah, like
I don't know.
whether gambling's haram or halal is not really gonna change
Yeah,
your opinion on if Islam is true.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
So
But
can I ask you something? If that's all right.
yeah, sure.
So I'm surprised. I'm not sure why. Because I remember you said earlier that you were kind of thinking that God might exist at this point, and I remember we had a discussion where we kind of went over the arguments, and you seemed like they were pretty convincing arguments. I'm wondering what happened.
Can you refresh me on which arguments you're talking about?
Yeah, like the dependency argument. Like if one thing's dependent on another, and they keep going back, there has to be like a first independent cause,
Hmm.
and it can't be an infinite regress. Otherwise, we never would have gotten to the present moment.
Yeah.
Like what?
For that, there's I'm gonna say that there are some things that I can't explain. Um, and I think I just like sort of believe that um anything I can't explain, not supposed to explain. Same way how you believe that you can't explain God's actions. You just say, oh, he's above us, like, and he doesn't intend for us to understand why he does certain things. And so that's sort of my same belief about certain things that you would say are caused by God. But in my case, I'd say that I just don't understand the reasoning for
But they can be
why.
explained. God is the only explanation. You're never gonna find another explanation.
Sure, you could say God is the explanation for basically everything in this world, but um, from an like from my perspective, like from a atheist perspective, it's it's just something that you don't know how to answer, and
So it's sort of like you just to
yeah,
put it
like
in, but to put it in commonly used words, you have like a blind faith that God doesn't exist.
uh, blind faith that God doesn't exist.
Like you're sort of just believing it because, like, I mean, you don't
Uh,
have any other reason.
I don't I don't know, maybe like um, it's like you don't know an answer to a test. Instead of like saying um it's like sort of admitting that you don't know something. Like when I look at people who believe in God, it's almost like if God is fake, it's basically people are creating their own answer. But if it's real, then oh, okay, that like that's fair. That's the right answer. I just um I didn't study enough, I guess, to know the right answer. But um
Okay, so
yeah,
you brought up the analogy of the test, and I really want to use that analogy because
go for it.
there's like a really good Quran verse on it. Let me pull up the verse real quick.
Before you do, I just want to say one more thing. Um, I watched this video before we got into this call that I thought was really interesting. That I'd like to share with you, and I don't know,
Sure.
maybe if you want to like pin it in your description, you can. But I don't know. I thought it was a good video.
Oh, did you want to? Were you wanting to mention something from the video, or you wanted me to watch the video?
Um, it's let me see. It's a 17-minute video, and it's basically just explaining like why like it's not that's a very bad explanation. No, it's explaining how religion like came to be in the sense of if religion is false. So
Okay.
basically, if God doesn't exist, like it explains how everything, like how people came to the realization that God exists and how they were able to like gather people into the religion and you know further expand it,
So like
which I just thought was interesting.
an atheistic view on how religion came about.
Yeah, he's a Christian, but like he started having some realizations that he explains in the video.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to send it to me.
I don't
Um,
know. It might not be the best video for the people in your like watching your video to watch, but
I mean,
I don't
I'm
know.
not gonna put it in my video, but I can watch it on my own time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting though, because that's one of my favorite proofs of Islam is like the way that the Quran was revealed can't be explained by natural causes. Like there's no logical explanation, except for divine inspiration. But we can get into that later. I wanted to bring up there's this Quran verse. It's chapter 52, verse 35. Okay, and you use the analogy of the test, which I really liked. So let's imagine the test, right? The question is, does God exist? And you're given like A, B, C, D, right? So
Hmm.
this is gonna be my argument, and this is actually a Quranic argument. I'm gonna read the verse first. So this is the verse 52:35 to 52:36. Okay. Or were they created by nothing, or are they their own creators? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? In fact, they have no certainty. Okay? So I'm going to explain this a little bit. Let's imagine the question, does God exist? I'm going to make the claim that there's only 4 possible answers that you could ever conceive of. Okay?
Okay.
These possible answers are it was created by nothing. Something else that was contingent created it. It created itself, or God created it. Does that make sense? Is there
From
any other possible origin of the universe?
the only other one I can think of is it was created for a reason outside of our understanding,
Well, no, it's not about
which
the
is
reason. It's about how it came about.
yeah, it came about um in a way that we can't understand it. Uh,
So
That's the
like
only other.
no, but that's not an explanation though.
Yeah, it's because we don't know the explanation.
Well, but it has to be one of these 4. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, okay, maybe
Are
you
you saying
can
that there could be like a 5th? Like there's another way that it could possibly come about?
yeah, yeah, but we just don't know about that way.
But any other way you could think of would just fall into one of those categories.
Maybe. I'm just saying, what if there's a way that we can't think of?
Well, logically speaking, there isn't any other possibility. If you think of anything that created the universe that's not God, then it would just fall into the contingent category. Does that make sense? So any possible, even if you can't think of it, but it's not God, so it's not that option, it would just fall into the contingent category. So then you'd basically be saying it's something that's not contingent, but it's also not contingent, which is just doesn't make any sense. Like any other thing, there's no other option basically. Any other option would just fit into the second category.
Okay.
And if it didn't,
So,
if you're saying no, the thing that we don't know what it is, but it's not contingent, okay, then it's independent, and that would just be God. So, for example, in the contingent category, you could say like the multiverse, or maybe it's like the multiverse theory, or there was like an infinite thing that caused it. There's a big blue monkey that did it, right? All of these possible things you could ever think of would just fit into the contingent category. And contingent just means
okay.
dependent, basically.
Sure.
So
So yeah, let's go down the list and knock them down.
so yeah, it's just like a test, right? So we can do the process of elimination. Okay. And this is funny because
Okay.
this is actually the Quran's argument. It's such a good argument. So let's go with the first one. Was the universe created by nothing? Okay, I feel like we can just easily cross this one off, or does this need further explanation?
Well, some people talk about how the universe was always there. So, I mean, I guess we could go a little bit into that.
Okay, so the universe is always there. So like
Yeah,
time just went on into infinity.
sure.
Yeah, but that would just be a contradiction.
But God is always there, so no,
No, but God's not
I'm
in
not
time.
sure if there's.
The universe is in time, right? And you're right. If God was
Okay,
in
yeah.
time, it would just be a contradiction.
Hmm.
So if
All
we could
right.
say, is the universe not bound by time?
I guess I guess it would have to be bound by time.
Well, I mean, it's obviously bound by time because there's motion. Motion is
Yeah.
time, right? There's my hands, like one object's in this state, and then it moves in the next state. That's just time happening, and we clearly see movement. I don't think I need to prove that there's movement in the universe. So just by the very fact of there being movement, there is time, and the universe is governed by time. I mean, everything's moving. The sun's moving. The earth's moving. And if it's bound by time, it can't go infinitely back. Otherwise, we never would have gotten to the present moment.
Okay, that's fair.
So it couldn't have been created by nothing. Um, the second one is, or are they their own creators? So did the universe create itself? Well, how could it create itself? It would have had to be, it would have had to been there before it existed to create itself. How could it have been there
Uh,
before it existed?
okay. So yeah. Hmm. Okay, I gotta think about that one.
Like this is a rule in theology. It's like something cannot generate its own existence because it would have required it to exist prior to its existence in order for it to exist, which just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think a common thing that's what's it called? Um, re not related, but like talked about in this scenario is the Big Bang,
Mm.
and a lot of people say like that. I think in your case, at least, you're saying that um, how could the Big Bang happen? Because there had to be something to create the Big Bang,
Well,
and
no, the Big Bang's in the next category. Yeah, because the Big Bang would be like an external cause that caused it.
oh,
That's in the next
so
category. This is just talking about did the universe just spawn itself, basically.
oh, okay, yeah. That one doesn't make sense.
Okay. So then the third category, this is the one where there's going to be a little bit of discussion. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? So basically, did something else that's contingent create it? So for example, we have different theories. Did the Big Bang create it? Okay. Did the what's it called? Did the multiverse create it? So
Yeah.
then we have to ask, well, what created those? Because we know that it's just an explosion, right? Like the Big Bang's just an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever was the first thing in that chain is God. So if you want to call God the Big Bang, you just gave God another name. If you want to say, as long as you say the Big Bang is eternal and not bound by time, right? But you say, okay, well, the Big Bang was like a temporary explosion that just happened once. Okay, so it's bound by time. How did it start? Okay, so we know that the thing has to be outside of time, otherwise it's going to just be a contradiction. So if something contingent created it, something that's dependent created it, meaning dependent means that it depended on something else to exist. If something that created the universe, which depended on something before it to exist, then it would just be a chain, like what created that, what created that, what created that, what created that, infinitely. And you can fill in those hypotheses with anything. It could be the multiverse, it could be the Big Bang, it could be the Big Blue Monkey, it could be Green's Animator, whatever it is. If it's dependent, that means something else must have created it.
Hmm.
And if that chain goes on and on and on forever, then you would have never gotten the first one. So the only other possible explanation is that something which is independent, meaning X thing that created the universe, does not depend on something else. And X thing that created the universe is not bound by time. And X thing that created the universe had enough power to create the universe, to bring it into existence. Does that make sense? So this
Hmm.
X thing we know has to be independent, has to be eternal because it's not bound by time, and it has to have power. And this is just what we call a law, basically. A law just is that description. And in fact, it's
Okay.
also necessary, meaning there's no possible world in which a law doesn't exist, because any other of these options we've already showed entails some sort of contradiction. So he is the only other option. He's the only possible option. And that's why, like, one of the things I'm most sure of is God's existence, because I can't even conceive of a world in which he doesn't exist. Any other world in which you posit him not existing is just a contradiction. It doesn't make any sense.
Hmm. Okay. I'm gonna give you an idea, and you tell me if I'm just going crazy or if it's an actual good idea. Um, what if instead of calling like saying that there's no possible like everything in the universe is dependent and therefore God has to be there has to be an independent thing which is God to create the universe.
Mm-hmm.
What if we were to say instead of God being the independent thing, if we were to call something else being independent. So let's say the particles that created the Big Bang, for example,
Yeah.
if those were independent um, particles, which I mean, I can't really imagine that, but yeah, just like take that into perspective. Would it be possible that it was the particles that created the universe and that um, there's no actual like divine being, which you call God?
Well, if you're saying those particles are independent, eternal, powerful particles, then they would just be God. They just fit the definition of God. You just give God a new name, and
Okay.
that's why there is different names. Like, we don't always call him Allah. Sometimes we call him God. Sometimes we call him Dios in Spanish. I mean, you can do language where it's called bonkers. You can make a new language where jab means the independent, eternal. You can make a language where particles just means that. Um, the only that would just be another word for God, basically. The only problem is if you say, well, these particles created it, but they're actually not eternal. Okay, well then they're not God. Then they're in time and they had to have a beginning. Okay, maybe they are eternal, but what's it called? They didn't have any power. So they didn't have any ability to create a universe, and yet they created a universe. So you have to, as long as you affirm that that thing has the necessary, we call them the necessary attributes of God, then yeah, that would just be another word for God. And you said
Okay,
when you
so
say divine being, divine just means the essential properties that make something God. So divine would be like eternality or power, these sort of things. That's just what divine means. So yeah, they could be divine particles, like whatever you
so
want to call them.
if I understand this right, you're saying that anything can be God as long as it's like independent.
No, I'm saying any word you use can be God if it fits the definition of God. So if you want to call God a particle, if by particle you just mean the independent first cause that's eternal, then yeah, that's just God. That's just another word for God.
Okay,
Me
but
personally, I call him Allah, but other people call him Jehovah. Other people call him Elohim, whatever you want to call him.
hmm okay. The only thing I see with that um it's a bit confusing is that when you say God and like talk about God in Islam, you most mhm. You tend to think of a omnipotent God, which is brought up a bunch in the Quran and other um, religious texts.
Hmm.
So, if you're able to call particles or something that is able to create the universe without being dependent on anything else as God, then are you saying that something that's not omnipotent is able to create the universe?
No, I'm saying omnipotence is one of the necessary attributes, meaning omnipotence is required for that thing to create the universe. Like
Okay.
the X thing can't just be independent; it also has to be all powerful or enough power to create. Like look how big the universe is. Think of how much power that would take to create this universe, more than any numerable amount. So we would just call that all power. That's necessary. X thing must have enough power to at least create this universe necessarily. Otherwise, it's like saying, did this thing create a car, but it didn't have any of the materials or the power to create the car? Well, no, we know it didn't create the car then if it didn't have the ability to create a car. Okay.
Okay. It's
So
like
yeah, one of the
there needs to be.
yeah, so the necessary attributes of God, there's a few necessary attributes. These are things that he can't not have basically. And this is one of the reasons why I refute Christianity, because they say Jesus is God and yet he lacks these necessary attributes. So the necessary attributes are he must have all power, or at least enough power to create the universe, which is going to be so much that to our minds, this is going to be all power basically. He must be timeless, or in other words, eternal. He has to be. He can't be in time. He has to have all knowledge because he created everything. Therefore, he knows everything. He created all knowledge. Therefore, he has all knowledge. And there's a few other ones. We can go. There's like tons of different ones that are ascribed in the Quran, basically. But all of his attributes are necessary.
Okay. So
If he lacks
I
any of
just have.
them, he's no longer God,
Okay.
like by definition.
So one of them, I'm not certain about whether it's important, whether he lacks it or not. So I'm just gonna go away. Uh, wait, no, that was the wrong expression. I'm just gonna. Wait, what's the expression for it? I'm just gonna take it. Like I don't know. When you like,
Grant it.
no, take an expression and you talk about it, or take a example and talk about. I don't know. Well, whatever the term is. Um, if um, if there, because you say okay, wait. Let me just restart. Do you believe that there needs to be a designer for the creation of the universe?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to give me an example of um, how the universe functions thanks to the help of it being designed in such a way to make it function? If that makes sense.
Am I able to give you an example of? Wait, can you elaborate a bit more?
Sure. So, um, can you? So, for something to function, it needs a design. Like, we'll take the car engine example. To create a car engine, you need to design it in such a way for it to work. Um, how do we know that there needs to be a designer? How do we know this is
Oh,
not just a like
okay.
random mix of random materials that just happens to work in the way it does?
Okay, so in other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in other words, how do we know that this X thing that's independent, eternal, and all powerful, how do we know that it actually chose to design this and it didn't just do it randomly? Is that kind of what
Yes.
you're asking? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the way we know is because we can look at the universe and we can see possibilities. So for example, is if you see the trees, right? They have green leaves. Is it logically possible that the leaves could have been blue? I don't mean biologically possible. There's a distinction here. I mean logically possible. As in, would it be contradictory if the leaves were blue instead of green?
I don't believe so, no.
Right. And is it also possible that I could have been born 6 foot tall instead of 5'9"?
Yeah.
Okay. So why is it that I'm 5'9" instead of 6 foot? Or the leaves are green instead of blue? Because
Um,
it could have been either
uh,
one, but one of it happened to be one.
I- I'm gonna say that it happened based on chance.
No, it couldn't have happened on chance. It had to be a decision. Because if there's a possibility of let's say it could have been blue or it could have been green, that means something had to choose it being green as opposed to blue. Does that make sense? Because it could have been blue, but why is it not blue? It's green instead. Something
Okay,
chose it.
that doesn't really make sense to me. Like it's
Let
like
me see if I can
saying
explain.
it could be two different answers. So, and the reason why it's one and not the other shows that there's design. Is
Yeah,
that, am
so
I understanding that correctly?
so yeah, let me try to reframe it a different way. I could have been
Okay.
6 foot. I could have been 6 foot, or I could have been 5'9". Why is it that I'm 5'9" instead of 6 foot?
Um, Biologically because of genes, but
I don't mean bio. I mean like the ultimate cause of it. Like obviously it's biologically through my mother, through her mother, blah blah, genes. But why was the initial thing that led me to be 5 foot? Why was it 5 foot instead of 6 foot?
I'm gonna say chance again.
What do you mean chance? Real
Like,
randomness doesn't exist
what makes you say that?
because it can't exist. There's no example of it existing.
Okay, now you've lost me.
What? Okay, name one thing that's random.
Um, your eye color,
But it's
not
not random.
biologically.
How is my eye color
Mm,
random?
well, what eye color did you have?
Blue.
Okay, so, um, I mean, you could have been born with brown eyes, but the fact that you were born with blue just makes it random. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure how to explain it.
I think we. So biologically speaking, your eye color is set because of your parents. Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of like a different discussion. Let's try to do
I,
something. Let's do an easier example. Why? Okay,
sure,
let's.
sure.
So we know that the universe is a certain size, right? I'm just gonna give it a random number. It's not really important. Let's just say the universe is 1,000,000 meters long. Okay. Why is the
hmm
universe 1,000,000 meters long instead of 2,000,000 meters long?
Um, I'm not sure.
Well, something had to pick because it could have been it could have been any other. It could have been 1,000,000. It could have been 2,000,000. It could have been 3,000,000. It could have been 4,000,000. But why is it 1,000,000 as opposed to any other number?
Hmm. Okay, I need to think about this a little bit. uh, it's actually like a really interesting point. Having n no randomness is interesting.
Yeah, I don't believe in randomness. I don't even think random. I don't even believe random number generators are random.
Well, that can be like found because of code, but
Yeah, ultimately it's predictable.
okay, wait. Oh man. Ugh.
You want to know why it's 1 million meters instead of 2 million or 3 million?
Tell me.
Because possibilities implies choice. So there had to have been a choice made on whether it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, whatever. There had to be a choice made.
Oh, wait, I just thought of an example.
Okay.
Can I hit you with it?
Yeah, go ahead. You're not going to
So,
be able to come up with anything, bro.
all right. So let's think of the randomness being a coin flip. The decision was made to make a coin flip. Like that's the decision that was made. Like the what's another way to say it? The like how mm,
Bro,
like
even a coin
how
flip's not
everything is
random.
decided. But it is random. Like
No, if we calculate exactly how you flip the coin, we calculate the air resistance. Okay, we calculate the force of gravity. You can predict with 100% accuracy what side the coin is going to land on.
hmm
And in fact, they've made machines that do this. They've made a machine that can flip, like for example, a water bottle. They've made a machine that can flip a water bottle and it lands every single time because they've calculated the exact air resistance in the room, the force of gravity, and then also the torque of the arm. You can do the same thing with a
Okay.
coin. They can make a machine that lands the coin on heads every single time if you know the air resistance and the gravity.
So what you're saying is there's no Oh, my water bottle just fell. What you're
Did it
saying is
land?
that there's no yeah. What you're saying is that there's no 100% randomness.
Not. There's no true randomness. Can't be. It's impossible.
Okay.
There's things that can appear random, like a random number generator, for example. If I ask AI, just give me a random number, it looks like it's random, but it's not actually random. So
That's actually a really interesting point. I gotta ponder upon that.
you can even ask a scientist. They'll tell you that there's no like true random in like flipping a coin or something like that. Like they'll tell you no, it's because of the way you flipped it with your hand, how much force you put in your thumb, the air resistance, the gravity. It's all predictable. The reason it appears
Okay.
random to you is because you don't know. You just absentmindedly flick the coin at a certain power, and you notice that 50% of the times it lands on head, 50% of the time it's on tails.
hmm
So it just appears random to you, but it
Yeah.
can actually be
But
calculated.
it appears random, but by having the knowledge to understand how it works, you're able to figure out what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, like they've already made machines that can do that. Like here, I can pull one up if you want to see. Like I
Okay.
bet you on YouTube they have a machine that can land the coin on heads every single time.
And that's interesting because I also believe that that's how the universe was created in what would appear to be random, but we just don't understand it yet at our human with our human brains and our capacity to understand um, how everything works in order to understand how the universe was created.
Yeah, but well, first of all, even if you assume it's randomness, that means you still assume that there's a independent, all powerful, eternal creator. It just randomly chose things arbitrarily. Things happened, so you don't actually really negate the existence of a god by saying it's randomness.
hmm Okay,
Here, let me find. I can't find the coin one, but I want to show you the water bottle one.
sure.
It's actually pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, once once we're done with this, I'm probably gonna have to think about that randomness one a bit more.
Yeah, think about it. You will never find an example.
Yeah.
Of course, all of a sudden it's not popping up on my. But I've seen it before though. Um,
Yeah.
Zealand's a
I mean,
wonder.
look, there are some what's his name? Starts with a Mark, I think. Uh
Mark Rober.
hold on, wait. Yeah, Mark Rober. Or yeah, I remember he made a video where like he had this slinky that would just infinitely go down these steps. Thanks to like math and whatnot. So, I know what you mean by that.
Oh, I think I found it. Let me see. I think this is it. Liquid filling machine. I don't know. I can't find it right now, but you get the point. Like, hypothetically, everything could be predicted scientifically.
Yeah,
Like,
with enough like knowledge and
yeah, like if you calculate the
understanding.
air resistance, the power you put with your thumb, the gravity, the wind in that exact moment, the weight of the coin on what side, you'd be able to calculate with 100% accuracy what the coin's going to land on.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Yeah.
my whole point was that possibility implies decision, because if there's two possibilities, it had to be one or the other. And since it was one as opposed to the other, it had to be that one. And even if you say chance, like who set the percentage? Is it 50% chance? Is it 25% chance? Like how did that number, what percent chance is it that it's 1 million as opposed to 2 million?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think for that point, I'm just gonna say that chance is based on like determined based on how many other possibilities there are, and each one has an even chance of happening. I like
But that's
in
just
in
that's
the
just speculation.
yeah, that's just speculation. That's fair, but it's a very interesting point though.
But
I will say that much.
even if I grant you that, it still doesn't negate that there's a God with it, like an eternal creator that's necessary and has all power and all knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we could also come to know like that he can decide things based on revelation, which would be a separate discussion. Like if we can establish that the Quran is true, then we know from the Quran that God chose things as he says that he has free will in the Quran. But then that would go into the question of like, is the Quran from God, etc. Right. So that would be like
Mm-hmm.
a separate
Yeah.
discussion. Um, but yeah, this is kind of getting long. I don't know if if you had anything else. If there's
Well,
anything else we
I
can
have
think
one more
of.
question, which
Yeah.
actually gets into kind of what you were talking about before. So hopefully this one is a bit shorter than what we were going on before. Um, so yeah, so basically the last question I had was on God's existence and like basically asking about how how God can exist and whatnot. So I'm just gonna like have the mindset for this question that God does exist, um, so that we can just be on the same page for this. So
Mhm.
this one is kind of directed towards Islam. So if you are certain that Islam is the one and only true religion, then why does it only make up 25.6% of the population? So if we look at Christianity as an example, it has a 3.2% more of like population of people who follow it. So I'm just wondering if Islam is like the one and true religion, why are there so little people who believe in it?
Well, 25% is not so little, I would say. First of
Yeah,
all,
but I feel like it would be more like if people truly believed, and it was there's proof, which I think you've tried showing me before. Then wouldn't that mean that all religious people should just follow Islam?
yeah. Um,
Okay,
all,
then
all
why are
truly
there more?
religious all truly religious people do follow Islam.
Okay, so in that case, a better question to ask is why are there more followers of Christianity than Islam?
There's not. There's more followers of the umbrella term Christianity, but the thing is, the majority of Christianity is split into Protestant and Orthodox, or sorry, Catholic. And Catholics don't think Protestants are Christian. Protestants don't think Catholics are Christian. So actually,
Okay.
the biggest religious group is Sunni Islam, because like according to Protestants, there's only 500 million, I believe it is 500 million Christians in the world. And then according to Catholics, it's like one. Let me see how many. How many Catholics are there?
I think I saw like there was like 2.1 billion or something.
No, there's where is it? 1.3 billion Catholics. How many Protestant Christians are there? And then there's, let's see how many Protestant there is. So there's 900 million Protestants and 1.3 billion Catholics. And then how many Sunni Muslims are there? And then Sunni Muslims, so not counting Shia, is 1.6 billion. So when you say there's more Christians, you're assuming that Protestants and Catholics are both Christians, which I wouldn't even necessarily disagree with, but according to each other, they're not. Like the other one isn't, so they're actually heretical.
Okay. So let's put it in a different way then. There are more people who believe in different religions other than Islam than there are people who believe in Islam.
Yeah.
Would you agree on that? Okay.
I would say
So,
that there's more people that maybe identify, but the thing is, I think I mean not most, but I'd say like 50% of people in the world are just culturally identifying. Because I know a lot of Christians who they just call themselves Christians, but they really don't believe in Christianity. Like they don't even believe Jesus is God. They believe in one God, like Islam, but they were just born into Christianity, and they don't even really practice it. So, and there's a lot of Muslims like that too. I'm gonna be completely honest. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's more people that identify as that, as
so
not
what you're
Muslim.
saying is that more people believe in like the like almost the way like the type of beliefs Islam has. They just don't aren't actually
Like
like
you'd be surprised. There's a
Muslims.
lot of Christians that they claim to be Christians, but they don't even know what the Trinity is. Like they just thought
Hmm.
Jesus died on the cross and that's it. Like they don't even believe Jesus is God. Like there's a lot of Christians that believe that. Um, I will say this though, out of any religious group, Muslims definitely have the most actually practicing of any religious group, 100%. And
Okay.
that's just from
Um,
personal experience, being in the Christian community compared to the Islamic community.
okay. So I guess my question's just irrelevant then. Cool.
Well, let's even grant your question, okay? So there's more people that are not Muslim in the world than there are Muslim. Um, why would that make something true or not true?
Uh, no, I don't believe it does. I just thought, not thought, but I believe that for a religion to have 100% certainty and for you to like have believe that there's a 0% chance that there's any other religion that could be uh true other than Islam.
Well, I don't believe
That
that. I believe that it is possible that, like, there is a possible world. There's no contradiction. There's a possible world in which God just didn't send any guidance. That's completely possible, but it's, in my opinion, extremely, extremely unlikely considering all the evidence.
oh, okay,
But there
that's
is,
actually
it's not possible that God doesn't exist, though. There's no possibility for
okay,
that.
okay, that's actually a really good point that you added because I was under the impression that you fully believed 100% faith that Islam was the only correct um like way of how everything happened, but
No, I do.
okay,
I believe 100% that Islam is true. But it is possible that, meaning like God could have not sent revelation if he didn't want to, but he did. Like I believe 100% that he did send revelation, but it is possible that he could have just not guided us. That is completely possible, but I don't think I believe 100% that he did, if that makes sense. However,
uh,
there's 0% chance that atheism is true, and there's 0% chance that Christianity is true because they're contradictory, so they can't be true.
but that um like that doesn't make sense because if you believe 100% in Islam in Islam, but you also believe in the possibility that Islam is not 100% true, and that's kind of just a contradiction right there.
No, you're misunderstanding what I mean by possibility. I don't mean, when I say possibility, I don't mean it as in like that's a consideration that I have. I mean it as in it's logically possible that God could have not sent revelation. Meaning it's not impossible for him to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for example, if let's say I drink a glass of water. Oops, sorry. Whoa. Let's say I drink a glass of water. Or, here, let me give a better example. Let's say I click a button, okay? I'm
Okay.
100 million% sure that I just clicked that button. I would die on the belief that I clicked the button. That's how sure I am, okay?
Yeah.
But it's possible if I could have chosen not to click the button. It's completely possible. It's not possible that I could have just made a square circle.
Okay.
So,
So,
yeah.
based on your perspective, there's a 100% chance that Islam is true. But if your perspective is wrong, then there's a possibility that it's not true.
It's logically possible that God could have, meaning it's not necessary. So, in theology, there's three categories of any sort of existence: necessary, possible, or impossible. So God's existence is necessary, meaning there's no possible world in which he doesn't exist because it's possible it's necessary that he exists in order for there to be any existence at all. Then there's possible existence, like you and me are possible. We could have existed or we could have not existed. Whereas God, there's no possibility that he couldn't have existed. He had to exist in order for there to be a universe. You and me, though, we're contingent. It's possible that I could have existed or I possibly could have not existed. Then there's impossible existences, things like contradictions, like 2 + 2 = 5. That can't exist in any way, shape, or form. Can't possibly exist at all. So what I'm saying is that God's existence is necessary. God sending revelation is possible. It fits into the possible category, meaning he could have sent revelation or he could have not. And I believe 100% that he did. But there wouldn't have been any contradiction if he didn't.
Hmm.
It's not an impossible thing.
So it's like saying you believe, I wouldn't say 100%, you believe 99.99%.
No, I believe 100% that
No?
I believe 100% he sent revelation. Like I'm 100%
Okay.
convinced.
I,
Here, I don't know
I
how
don't
to
know.
explain it.
That doesn't.
Here, let me try it one more time. So if I press a button, okay, I physically press a button. I'm 100% convinced that I pressed it. I know for sure I pressed it. There's no doubt that I pressed it, okay? But It wouldn't have. I could have in the past if I chose not to press it. It's possible I could have not pressed it if I didn't want to, but I did. It's completely possible, but I did shoot, but I did press it.
Okay, so wait, let me see if I'm saying this right. There's 100% chance that you press the button, but there's the possibility, if you wanted to have, where in like a different reality or a different like universe where you didn't press the button.
Yeah, that universe could have. That universe is perfectly possible.
Uh-huh.
There's no contradiction.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So
But based on the
yeah,
evidence of me seeing my hand press the button, feeling the button being pressed, consciously doing it, yeah, I can say with 100% certainty that I did actually choose to press the button as opposed to not choosing it.
okay, that makes sense.
So with God, God could have sent revelation or he could have not sent revelation. He did send revelation, so I'm 100% certain that he did. But if he chose not to, that's possible. Like it wouldn't have been a contradiction if he did that, but he didn't do that.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm probably just terrible at explaining this, but
No, I get what you mean. I just like sorry if this like sounds bad, but I
yeah,
don't
it's
really
because the
see
word
it.
possible usually in everyday conversation, people when they say possible, they think of it as in like that's a consideration that they have, as in like they're not sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I I do too many of these debates and stuff, so I'm used to using the word possible as in theologically, as in like the theological metaphysical connotation of possible. So whenever if I speak to you, I might use the word like necessary, possible, and impossible differently than how you might seem. So I need to kind of explain those. Like some people might be like, "Oh, like I can't jump 100 feet tall. That's or 100 feet high. That's impossible." It's impossible in the sense of like they can't do it, but I don't believe there'd be a contradiction if God gave them the ability to do that thing, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
I guess when I use the word impossible, I mean it in the ultimate sense. Like it's impossible for 2 + 2 to equal 5. Like God couldn't make 2 + 2 equal 5. That's just a contradiction, if that makes sense. But
Okay.
God could have made it where I could jump 100 feet. There's no
Yeah.
contradiction there. So there's kind of like
So
a sort of connotation difference that I have because I just talk like this a lot.
yeah, yeah. But was there a point I forgot about that you were trying to like relate to this?
um, well, yeah, I was just saying that God's existence is necessary, meaning there is no possibility that he couldn't have existed. But God sending the Quran to us is, what's it called? No contradiction if he didn't send it, but he did send it. There's no contradiction if he does send it, and he did send it to us, so we should believe in it. But there's no possibility that Christianity is true. There's no possibility that atheism is true. There's no possibility that any other religion is true because any other religion has a contradiction
Hmm.
or just falls into the non-evangelical, or it's just a philosophy, or it's just no guidance. Basically, it would just either fall into that or it'd be a contradiction.
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand where you're trying to get at there.
That's why I kind of believe that. That's why I believe like 100% certainty in God and in the Quran and stuff is because all the other beliefs are just contradictions. It's like process of elimination, basically.
Oh, okay, okay. I think that's good. I think because yeah, I think that answered all my questions. So,
Okay.
but all right.
Um.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
Maybe. I guess what is like the sort of barrier, like something that maybe doesn't make sense to you. We don't have to go really deep into it. I'm just wondering, like,
Like, if God doesn't exist, what contradictions are there?
no, just like what seems What's like the number one reason like you definitely couldn't see Islam being true?
Um, like basically, you're asking why I don't believe in Islam.
I mean, more or less. I mean, I kind of understand. Like, obviously, you're not going to just become a Muslim right now, um,
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But like, is there like an actual like, other than like just cultural or like hesitancy? Like, is there like an actual like polemic reason, basically?
hmm Okay, that's a good question. Personally, I I just believe that there's not enough uh like current day proof to back it up. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to explain, but I feel like everything that has been um like talked about and like passed down in Islam, like it feels like it's possible that it could have been created by humans, and that this entire thing is just a huge story that
Yeah, I
that
understand. Okay, so maybe
yeah,
last question.
hard to explain.
This wouldn't be one that we'd need to go through now. Just kind of maybe in preparation for the next conversation if we ever have another one.
A-
What?
Actually, before you do, I just want to like go on a little bit about the last question you asked.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I I definitely believe it's possible that Islam is true, but without like proof that like God like can intervene
Mhm.
in current day like in current day lives and like show us that Islam is the true religion, then I just don't believe that there's enough proof to back it up.
Okay, so this is the last question.
Okay.
What kind of evidence that if I could hypothetically bring, like what kind of evidence would be convincing if I could hypothetically bring it? Is there a sort of
Okay.
evidence that I could hypothetically bring that would convince you?
Uh, that's a good question. I would say maybe um,
Like I can give you an
cause
example if you want.
sure, go for it.
So, okay, if hypothetically I could show you the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, telling tens of prophecies of the future that are provably not general, um, they have specifications. Like, for example, they're time bound or place bound or people bound. And if I could prove that they were extremely risky, meaning there's a high, oh, yeah, you do. Meaning there's like a high chance of them failing. Um, if I could show 10 of these prophecies, basically, and the prophecies are all crazy claims, that would be, if you were a false person, basically, they'd be like impossible for you to predict. If I could show you tens of these that all actually happened and not a single one went wrong, would you at least say that it's shocking that someone could predict that many times accurately just by chance?
Um, okay.
If this is a hypothetical.
Yeah, I will say it already is shocking by how many like things have happened in like Islam and religion that just makes you to believe that um like Islam is true. But at the same time, there's so many things in other religions that like have the same not the same claims, but like different claims that are just as shocking as ones in other religions. It makes you to believe that, well, obviously, if there's only one correct religion, then one of those claims has to be false. And if a claim as shocking as um one like like the one you just made that 10 people were able to predict the same exact thing. I think that's the claim you made. Like, not the
Like
claim,
I was saying,
the.
if the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could make tens of prophecies that are specific, like time bound, place bound, people bound, and they're wild claims, meaning like anyone who heard them would think he's crazy. They're risky, meaning it puts his whole religion in extreme jeopardy. And then they're super easy for them to become wrong, as in they have a very low chance of them being accurate. If he could make tens of these that all are accurate, they don't fail, would you admit? Okay, let me finish what I was saying. So if I could show you him, if he made tens of prophecies that are like crazy, easy to be proven false, time bound, they're not general, provably. If I could show tens of these prophecies that all came true and not a single one went wrong, would you say that it's probably likely, it's more likely that they would have come from divine revelation than just pure chance? Like, how could that happen from pure chance, basically?
Yeah, I would say it is more likely that it has come from divine revelation. But
Okay.
it's factoring out one thing, which, um, if it's able to be proven, then I don't know. Maybe I might start becoming religious again. But
Oh
it's
boy, you're gonna be
it's
in for a
about.
surprise, bro.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. It's about how do I know whether it's the entire thing is just a story or not that's been fabricated by some human who um is obviously has thought this out and was able to like
Well, that's the
make
whole point. The
this.
prophecies are gonna be so, like, they're gonna be so crazy that there's no way any human could have planned it out. That's like how could a human plan out like which army is gonna win in a war, for example?
Yeah, but it's been like that throughout multiple religions. Like there are multiple religions where there are crazy things that happen that humans can't predict, yet
Like
it's
what?
still. Well, okay, I'm gonna have to think of that. Hold on a sec. So you said the 10 prophets, like Muhammad told the 10 prophets.
10 prophecies.
But prophecy.
Tens.
Wait,
There's
what's the?
there's hundreds of them actually, probably. But I could probably show
Yeah.
you like 10. I mean, we can't go through every single one, but
hmm
you know.
So I'll put in Judaism, there's the survival of Israel, which um I mean, looking at it now, I'm not sure, I'm not too sure anymore. Israel might be wiped out. But it's a claim like that where, like in current day, the claim is still holding up, and
Yeah, bro.
so
I believe in that. Like
you believe.
we believe in the original Torah and the original Injil. Like I have no problem with that.
Okay, I don't know, maybe because most religions are uh like come from the same stories, and so
Yeah,
a
like
lot of
those.
them have.
Sorry,
Okay,
I don't mean to interrupt.
no, no, that's fair, that's fair. But I don't know, maybe
Like
maybe I'll
those
have to look at like
prophecies, like in the
Hinduism.
Bible, those are, we would consider those revelation as well.
Yeah.
But like for example, there's also
Okay.
false prophecies in the Bible, which we wouldn't believe in.
hmm
Like Jesus
I
makes a
don't know.
false prophecy in the Bible, which which we would obviously believe is not accurate. So
Yeah, you definitely. You might be right in that. I don't know, because to be fair, I haven't looked enough into it to find anything that like any contradictions, I guess. But I like there's still the possibility of there being a contradiction, which I guess is what
well, yeah, if you can
is
find
what.
a single false prophecy of the Prophet Muhammad, I wouldn't be a Muslim. Yeah, I'd just leave Islam.
Yeah.
Like that would just instantly disprove him. It's actually the same thing with the Quran. Like if you find a single contradiction in the Quran, if you can replicate a single verse from the Quran, if you can find like a false prophecy,
Hmm.
then it would just instantly disprove the religion.
And not just the Quran. We're also talking about the Bible and the Torah, right?
Well, yeah, if you find a contradiction in the Bible, then you know that the Bible is not from God. Because how could God make a mistake?
Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's because there's there's still the possibility of it existing, and just a possibility is stopping me from believing in God. Well, not God, but is stopping me from believing in religion and Islam. But I don't know. Hmm, maybe if
Well,
I
if
just
this
look
guy was
into
a
it more.
false prophet and he was making hundreds of prophecies, there's got to be tons of false ones littered all over the place.
Uh,
You know what I mean?
all right.
Like that wouldn't be hard to find. You can just like look up ChatGPT. You can try to bring like a false prophecy if you want. But maybe let's save it for the next conversation.
Sure. I don't know.
It's kind of getting long.
I think you fried my brain from this debate.
Yeah.
Too much to think about.
Yeah. Sorry. Sometimes I get like
No, don't be sorry. Don't be
I'm
sorry.
very like passionate about it. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All
do
right.
you want to say anything to the viewers? I guess before you leave.
Um,
Or
thanks for watching.
yeah.
Subscribe subscribe to Aaron. Wait, what's the new channel name again?
I called it Aaron the Revert.
Aaron the Revert. Okay. But yeah, no, it was fun having this discussion, and who knows? I hope we can have more of them in the future.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Job.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.